The Wonder Boy series is kind of an interesting story in itself. One port of it became known as Adventure Island, which spawned its own series. Then there was kind of a change in style from side-scrolling platformer to more action-adventure with RPG elements. And then we get to a point where there's two games titled Wonder Boy 3. Nowadays, the Wonder Boy 3, which came out on the Master System in 1989, that's the game that's probably better known, as that's the game that has recently seen a remake that was ported to a number of current generation consoles. But the other one, that one really doesn't get much attention. The only version of it that saw an official release here in the US was on the TurboGrafx CD. And over in Europe and Japan, they actually saw a version of that on the Mega Drive, and that's the one we will be talking about here today. Wonder Boy 3 Monster Lair first appeared in Japanese arcades in 1988, and while its predecessor, Wonder Boy and Monster Land, was more of an adventure-style game, the first half of each level of Monster Lair is more similar to the original Wonder Boy, as it features side-scrolling platforming in which you have to collect fruit to extend your timer and keep your game going, all while avoiding hazards along the way. But instead of having to pick up crude weapons, this time around the hero, known as Leo, here he has the ability to shoot a variety of projectiles from his sword. These projectiles and the various power-ups you can obtain, they're more like the things you would find in a shoot-'em-up game, which is what the game transforms to in the second half of each level, where you mount a flying dragon to battle oncoming monsters and a large boss at the end. The story in this game is quite simple. You, as Leo, this game's Wonder Boy, join forces with a princess in order to rid their home world of invading monsters. Being an arcade game, you don't really need too much of a plot. In two-player mode, player 1 controls Leo and player 2 controls the princess. The two play can control exactly the same, but the coolest thing about this two-player mode is that it's simultaneous play. Visually, this game has a great color palette, basic but fun looking character designs. It's kind of cute, but don't let that fool you. It's not a super easy game, as one hit will usually kill you. Sometimes some of the other enemies will just stagger you and take away from your timer. Something that really stands out to me is that the enemy placement in this game, it isn't always the most fair, so it's actually really beneficial to try to memorize the patterns of your enemies in order to get better at the game. You can adjust the numbers of continues and the difficulty in the options, but at any of the difficulty settings you still have to keep on your toes. The shooter stages, they're not too bad, but the waves of enemies, they keep to the same patterns. But Monster Lair is, for everything it's worth, an arcade port, and there's a lot of that quarter munching sensibility. Topping things off, the game has 13 levels, so it is fairly long. The original arcade game had 14, so some may say that it'll overstay its welcome. Whether or not you do too, that depends on how you feel about arcade platformers and side-scrolling shooters. Now, I'm not the most familiar with the Wonder Boy series of games, however, I will say that I do know a fun game when I see one, and I think this one is worth checking out at least once. Maybe you'll really enjoy it. This Mega Drive version of it, it is actually fairly cheap, whether you're getting the PAL or the Japanese version. It's 25 to 50 bucks for a complete copy on eBay at the moment. That's US dollars, which is a heck of a lot cheaper than the TurboGrafx 16 CD version that I believe at this time is around 75 bucks just for the disc by itself. Of course, you can always go play the game by dubious means as well. Now, let me throw things over to you. Are you a fan of the Wonder Boy series? Do you prefer Adventure Island? Let me know about that too. Love to hear from you. Leave a comment down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.